Hi, everyone, and welcome back to some new episodes of Sisters in Service. For those of you that know me, you know why I do this, because I want to tell those stories of active duty women and women veterans, and to tell their story, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly of what happened to them in service and after service. I also like to highlight these women who are business owners, they're entrepreneurs, they're bosses in their business. So I hope you'll continue to listen and let your friends know and let me know how this lands with you, because it's really important for me that you guys understand what I do, why I do it, and why I continue to do it. So here's the first episode. Are you ready to get fit and fabulous from the comfort of your own home? Look no further than Small Space Pilates. With live online Pilates and weight training classes, a video library, and a no perfection allowed policy, you can achieve your fitness goals without ever leaving your house. Visit smallspacepilates.com for your complimentary session and start your journey to feeling fabulous today. Welcome, everyone, to our newest episode of Sisters in Service. You know me, I am Kat Corchado. And if you listen to episode 123 of the podcast, I had Daniel Torres on. And we talked about deported veterans. I know, it's like two words that should never go together, right? And so Daniel told me his story. And then I met Dee. And I thought, wow, what's the female perspective on this? Because Dee does a lot of this work too. And so my guest today is Dee James. She is the CEO of Repatriate Our Patriots. She's a combat Army veteran. She has a huge passion for, take a breath, y'all, human rights advocacy, mental health prevention and repatriation of deported veterans, suicide prevention, sexual assault and harassment prevention. And now you can exhale. So welcome, Dee James.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Kat. That is a mouthful for sure.
Aren't you tired when you hear that? Did you go, I do all that? Oh my God, I'm exhausted.
I was like, no wonder. When do I have time to breathe? Right?
Exactly.
Honestly, I love what I do so much that it is just seamless, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like when you have a passion or, you know, just where your heart is, it just doesn't seem like it's work. It's just what you do. And so after hearing Daniel's story, and I thought, you know, I heard about the story about a year ago. It was actually an article and I saved it. And I said, I want to do an episode on this, but I didn't know anybody who'd been deported. Okay. And I was like, well, how am I going to have a guest on to talk about this if I don't know who to go to? And then Daniel came up and then Dee came up. And I just think that this is something that we as veterans have to circle around with. Okay. And say, this can no longer be an issue, because this has been going on for a long time, hasn't it?
It has. To be honest, I only became aware of this about 6, almost 7 years ago. And it was just, it hit me in the face, right? What do you mean this is happening? And this has been going on since World War I.
That's crazy.
Non-citizens have been serving in the military since World War I and before that. And immigration has always played a role into, right, because of the citizenship. And it just begins to progress. And it's all under the current immigration laws. That's where, so it's not the normal U.S. laws, it's immigration laws that play a factor in this. And most of us, unless you're impacted by immigration laws, you wouldn't know. You would not.
Okay, I'm going to stop you. Because you're going down the rabbit hole, and I know there's some good stuff here. But before we go there, tell me about your going into the Army. So the question I ask everyone who comes on who is a veteran, I ask them, did you pick the Army or did the Army pick you?
Well, I picked the Army.
Ooh.
I picked the Army. Yes.
And was there a reason why? What? Let me guess. The Air Force recruiter wasn't there, right?
Actually, the Marines recruiter was not there. They were
Oh, you were going to go into the Marines.
yes,
Oh,
and
Jeff would have been so happy.
the reason is because so I was born and raised in Mexico, and when we came to United States, we came right across the border in Yuma, Arizona, and all there is there it's a Marine Corps base, right? So
Mhm.
that's all we knew. That's all I knew. That's all I saw at high school. The recruiters, and I actually, because once I graduated, we couldn't afford college. We just did not have the money for it, right? And so I said, well, let me go look into the military. I heard they'd have education benefits and that it's a way for me to get my citizenship. And so I went into the recruiting station looking to join the Marines, and they weren't there. And then I looked down the hall and there was a Navy. I was like, I don't really like those bell bottom pants. I don't know.
Right? You're like,
I don't,
okay, their dress whites are awesome, but those bell bottoms, I'm like, I can't hang. I've
yeah.
got long legs and they never reach they always stop right at the ankles, and it's so
And for
unattractive.
me, I'm 5'3". So I was like, I'm gonna be mopping the floors the whole shift for them. So the Navy was just not my thing. And the Air Force, because of my language barrier, right? English is my second language. And I had just started learning English. My ABSWAB score was not that high. So I was like, well, not smart enough for the for the Air Force, right? So then there was the Army. And I spoke with the Army recruiter, and he, told me the benefits and what type of jobs they had available. And so that's how I joined the military. And this was in June of 2001. So before 9/11 happened.
So I know that when I went into the military, I am a nationalized citizen
Mhm.
because way back in the day, okay, y'all, I'm talking way before any of y'all were born. Even if you were born to an American citizen who was military, their dependents, their children were still considered non-citizens.
Mm.
So when we came back to the United States at 3 years old, I don't know how I did it. They said the words and I somehow mumbled them, and I became a nationalized citizen. Flash forward, I go into the Air Force, and the recruiter says, well, you're a citizen, right? And I said, yes. And he kind of goes, are you sure? And I said, well, I was nationalized, so I think I'm a citizen. And if I tell you he gave me the third degree, you've got to get those papers in, you've got to get them to me. If you don't get them to me, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So my question to you is, when you sat down with the Army recruiter, did they make any, I don't want to say promises because they don't. Well, maybe they do, depending on the recruiter. But did they say anything about there's a waiver to get you in, and once you're in, you can get your citizenship? Did they make it seem like it was just kind of, oh yeah, no problem?
Yeah. So he did make promises that the Army was not able to keep. But so in order to serve in the military, you have to have legal permanent resident status.
Mhm.
And that most common way of people knowing this is you have to have a green card. So you do have to have a legal status to be
Mhm.
here and join. So he knew that for us, right, the next step is naturalization. And so he mentioned that, yes, if you join and you serve your first contract, you can apply for your citizenship. So back in June of 2001, we were at peace. We were not at war. The war of terror had not happened. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so when you enlist in peacetime, you have to serve your first contract before you can apply for your naturalization. So going in, I knew hey, I'm okay, I'm gonna do my 3 years and then I can apply. But then 9/11 happened when I was in basic training.
Oh,
And yes, I was in basic training in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and 9/11 happened. So my life and trajectory completely changed after that. Um, for my recruiter and the promises that he made, right? Once he got me to sign the contract and once I shipped off, I am no longer on his radar. I'm no longer his problem. Now I
right.
am
It's like check the
different.
box, next. Yeah,
Yes.
it's like an
And
assembly line. Yeah.
yeah, so then there was no information, additional information that he gave me, meaning when you get to your first duty station, this is where you're going to go. This is the forms you have to fill out. There was none of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in basic training, right, I was just chugging along, and English was still very new to me. So my battle buddy, we will actually practice at night because I didn't know the commands, like the left phase, right phase, about phase. I was like, what is that?
Don't worry about that. I've seen people who have no language barrier who couldn't get it. Okay. I'm just going to say they have problems with it.
So for me, I had to learn a third language, right? And then 9/11 happens. And from then on, like my immigration status was not even
A
anywhere on my
factor.
radar.
Yeah.
Nowhere, because number one, it doesn't play a factor on whether what do I do in the military or not, right? I can travel with my military ID card. I can receive my benefits. I have housing. I have a paycheck. None of my peers asked me, hey, what's your citizenship? You can't come in here because you're not a citizen. There's
Right.
none of that, right? We don't see borders when we're in the military. My brothers and sisters saw me wearing the same uniform, had the US flag on my shoulder, and I was one of them.
Yeah, you've got my back.
Right, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was never spoken about. And now my main concern was I'm about to go to war. Like this was not my plan, right? But I made a commitment, and I'm here, and I'm going to make sure that I come back, and that I make sure that those who come with me come back as well.
So you do, how many years did you do in the Army? You did 8?
Almost 7.
Almost 7.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it? So you decided, was it, a medical discharge that you got out, or something else? But when did this whole thing come up in your face? Like when did you kind of got this inkling of, what is this crap? You know what I mean? When did that happen?
So unfortunately, it happened after I left the military. I deployed in 2003 to Iraq. And in 2003, March 19 of 2003, I found myself driving a lead truck who was hauling a 5,000 gallon of fuel across into Iraq. And it was a convoy of about 25 to 30 vehicles. And we were setting up fuel points for the tankers and all the Marines and everybody to push through into Iraq as the first surge happened. And several months into the deployment, that's when they started expediting naturalization ceremony, right? Mm-hmm. That's when they started doing ceremonies at the palace in Baghdad. And they began to say, hey, you come in, we need people, right? Because of the war. And everybody started joining because of what was going on. This is our country, and we felt that we needed to serve. And when I put in my application, we were probably around like month 7th of us being there, because we were there for 12 months. And by the time I got my naturalization appointment to go and do my ceremony at in Iraq, in Baghdad, it was time for us to go back to Germany, because we had already been there 12 months. So I missed my ceremony. I was not able to stay and attend my naturalization ceremony. So yes. The paperwork followed me to the consulate in Rome. And from there, they had to reprocess the paperwork and schedule me for another appointment. By the time that came around, we were on orders to go back to Iraq.
Oh, God. Oh, my gosh. It's like the timing thing,
Yes. And so that's the second time I missed it. And this was in 2005. 2005 was a really, really challenging period in Iraq. We were serving at this time. My role was I was a 50 cal gunner, and we were escorting supply convoys across everywhere in Iraq. So we were close to Fallujah. We traveled the entire Tsunami Triangle, and that was what I did. I was the lead gun truck for thousands of missions that I did
Okay,
throughout the year.
say that again. You were a 50
50 cal
caliber
gunner.
gunner. So you were a badass. Yeah, right. Okay, I'm saying it. It's my podcast. I don't care.
Yes. So
Girl, look at you,
yeah.
man. I love it.
And that deployment was extremely challenging for me. Our unit, we faced, we were engaged into some combat missions, and then I suffered military sexual assault, and that I had to deal with that as well. Right, that was another trauma in addition to trying to stay alive. So by the time I came back to Germany, I wanted out of the military. I want nothing to do with the military because I was being seen as my fault. I couldn't tell anybody, right? I couldn't. It was not a very safe environment for me.
Well,
So
it wasn't safe anywhere. You're not safe in Iraq. You're not safe with your own people. I mean,
yeah,
that's just, I can't even imagine, because you're trying to keep your head on a swivel, even when you're not behind the gun.
yeah. And that's when at first, right, I was in danger because we were at war and we were going out of the gate every day, right? But at least I knew I had my brothers and sisters had my back, right? They had my six, that I knew we were going out and we were all coming back, right? And after this happened, I didn't know if I could trust them. Like, they thought it was my fault that had happened to me. So how could I even trust that they will have my six, right?
Exactly.
So it was like, by the time I came back, our unit came back to Germany after doing another 12 months. I wanted out, like, in really me leaving the military, me leaving the career that I wanted to do as a profession. I wanted to do 20 years. I wanted to be a sergeant major. I wanted to do all of those things, right? That was my goal after 9/11 happened. Like, I wanted to do that. But me leaving was it was a safety, it was life-saving tactic that I did to leave.
It was safer than where you were. And I
Yeah.
feel like, I don't know you, but it feels as though you felt the need to be safe, and that felt like the safe thing for you to do.
Yes. And I knew, and I told my squad leader, platoon sergeant, I said, I'm out. I said, I know if I go back one more time to Iraq, I'm not coming back alive. I said, and that's where I was. So I waived my 90 days reintegration period, which is when you come back, people have to stay 90 days, right? Stabilizing. And I was out of the military and in Fort Hood, Texas within 60 days.
Wow.
I did not do a VA out processing. I didn't do anything. I just check all the boxes and I say, I'm out.
So
And
you fast tracked all of that. You just like, nope, check, and
I
done.
want it gone. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was this, for me, it was like, the soon as I get out of here, the better I will be, the safer I will be. Right. So at that time, with everything that had going on, no way I'm going to worry about my citizenship. Like, what? Like, no, like, I need to leave. And it didn't hit me in the face until I wanted to go home to Mexico to visit my mom. And I didn't have a military ID card anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I had a temporary military ID card that said that I'm already out and this is just my 90-day TA ID card.
Right.
And I looked for my green card and I couldn't find it. And when I did find it, it was expired.
Oh no.
Yes, it was expired. And
So was this before you went, or after you've already left the US to go see your
no,
mom?
this
And
was before. Yeah,
Okay.
thank God this was before. Had I thought about that after, I probably would be in Mexico. But yeah, I couldn't go. And so at that time, my husband now we had just gotten married after I got out of the military, and he was active duty. So I went ahead and put in as a military spouse to obtain my citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did all the processing there in Fort Hood, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to San Antonio in 2007. And that's where I did my naturalization ceremony. as a military spouse, not as a combat veteran, not because of my service, but as a military spouse.
Military spouse. Yeah, my mom had to do that before we came back to the States, because my mother was born in Wales.
Mm.
And so she had to go through all that. So you come back, you go see, did you get to see your mom?
After
Oh,
2007, so
okay.
yeah, after
Mhm.
2007, then that's when I was able to go back, and my husband we got orders to PCS, and ironically enough, we PCS right back to
To
Germany.
Germany. Oh,
So
God.
the same place, the same unit, the same bases where I had walked around in combat boots.
Wow. Talk about PTSD. That's,
If
ugh.
that wasn't like traumatic and triggering, like
Yeah.
it was so much. And my husband, that's when he was the first sergeant there, and his
Mhm.
unit had to deploy, and they deployed. He was in one of the units that deployed for
Mhm.
15 months. And as the first sergeant, he was the last one to come back
Mhm.
on R&R, right? And at that time, I had secured a job as what we called military, um, well, family readiness support. So I was still serving. I was serving the families that were left
Mhm.
behind while the soldiers were deployed. So it was challenging, right? But I
Mhm.
put myself back into serving the community, back
Mhm.
into serving those who were I have come from.
Mhm. Let me ask you this question. A lot of veterans go through kind of a mourning process. You're military, then you're out, and you kind of, and I'm not going to say you miss the people. There's probably some people you miss, but did you miss what it was you did in the military? Did you go through any kind of mourning process for, what if I had stayed in? What if this had never happened? Did you go through that?
I did. And at the time, I didn't know I was grieving.
Yes.
I did not know that I was
I don't
grieving.
think any of us know that at the time.
No. And it wasn't until 2012 that I found out that I was grieving, right? Not only was I grieving the loss of my service, right? That it was
Mhm.
taken from me, basically. I was also grieving my loss, my privacy was taken from me, right?
Mhm.
And so to try to process all of that, I really
Mhm.
didn't. I put it in a box and I locked it away.
Mhm.
And I made myself busy, 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 busy,
Mhm.
which is what a lot of us do. Maladaptively coping, drinking, a lot of wine.
Yeah. Whatever helps at the
Yes,
time.
and at that time, over medicating, Percocet was like aspirin
Mhm.
to me because that's all they
Mhm.
gave us when we were deployed, right? So it was like Percocet and codeine, and like this is like those like just like vitamins, like
Mhm.
Flintstones vitamins, right?
Mhm.
And that's unfortunate, but that's how we know like to cope,
Mhm.
right? We don't want to open the Pandora box, and
Right.
it took me 10 years to open my box.
Well, I think it's also necessary to say that no matter how long you've been in, that you go through the mourning process. You came out when you weren't really ready to come out, but you felt you had to because you felt safer being out. You
Mhm.
didn't go through the transition process. Not that it would have helped, but I'm just saying.
Mhm.
And then you're shoved into the civilian, not really civilian, but you're still in the military as a spouse. But it's like, did you feel like it sounds to me like your feet weren't really on the ground, like
They
you were
weren't.
kind of floating around, and not in a good way, that you didn't feel like you were secure in who you were, because coming out of the military, you're not sure who you are. For 20
Mhm.
years I was, Sergeant Corchado. And then I get out and I'm like, what do I do now? you know
Yes.
so I can't even imagine what that would be like for you.
Yeah, and I think I was in survival mode. I was in survival mode for
Mhm.
10 years. And it wasn't until I began to learn about PTSD, because I don't know if you remember, but back in 2003 and 2004, PTSD was hardly ever mentioned.
No.
Hardly ever mentioned about something that that veterans came back with from
It was
trauma.
very hush hush.
Very hush hush. And even once it came out, if you even started to say PT, like, right, it's like, if you don't finish at PT, then we're gonna count you down as like the one who's trying to malinger, the one who's trying to claim something to not go to Iraq
Oh
again.
man, that's
And
sad.
especially as females, right?
Yes.
God forbid we claim our toe hurts because, like, no way, she's trying to get out of deployment, or she's trying to get out. So even as a female, as a Hispanic female, right, and someone who had been through certain, like the stuff that I went through, is like, I couldn't say anything, because then it was like, oh, she's trying to do this, she's trying to do that. So we have to work 10 times harder to prove ourselves. And
Yes,
that's why, like, transitioning now the military for females is so different.
it is.
We have had to, like, try 10 times harder for the amount of times we were in the military, right? That to decompress from that, it takes a long time. We almost feel like we still have to, like, put ourselves up here, right? Every time, even after we're out of the military.
Act like
Because we
nothing's wrong.
Yeah,
Just shut up and do your job and
because we've
keep it
been doing that
moving.
for so long. We've been
Mhm.
doing that for so long, right?
Yes.
That is our new normal. Like, no, I'm
Mhm.
gonna show up for work. Yeah, I don't feel too good, but I'm still gonna go to work. Why? When that counterpart in the other cubicle, like, a hair falls off and it's like, oh my God, I'm sick. And everybody's like, oh my God,
I
is
know.
he okay?
Like,
Is
I
he
think I have a
okay?
sore throat. Imma go home. And you're like, "What? What?
Yes,
What is
yes,
wrong
right?
with you?"
And it's like, oh, is he okay? Oh, I'm so sorry, right? But God forbid one of us is like, oh, well, what's wrong with
Mhm.
her now? Right. So it's
Yeah.
like, is that stigma that we continue to have to fight. And I think that it puts an additional layer of challenges when
Mhm.
we transition out.
Well, I think it's when I first started talking about this, because a lot of times I was a single parent in the military. So I put on my uniform, went to work, came home, took my military hat on and put on my mom hat. So it was double duty.
Mm,
And so when I heard that women veterans are more likely to be homeless, I wasn't surprised, only
yeah,
because we get out of the military, we're looking for a job. If we have kids, we're looking for schools, we're looking for childcare. Um, God forbid we should move. Now we're in a different place. We don't know
yeah,
anybody. And then it gets to be this, and not even to mention PTSD or sexual, MST or anything like that. So it's like piling on top of each other.
yeah.
So have you talked to any women? Have you come in contact with any women who were actually deported? And how do you feel? What's your take on how it's different for women? Because I can just imagine what this is like. And my imagination is out there, y'all. I'm just gonna say, scares the crap out of me. Because Daniel told me that a lot of veterans who get deported are for minor infractions. Let's say you have a tail light out and you get stopped and they ask you for ID, and all of a sudden you are taken somewhere, questioned for however long,
Mhm.
and you're off somewhere. And I'm like, well, who people are expecting you home? You've got kids who are in school. So my mind just went all crazy. So can you tell our audience a little bit about that, about someone that you came in contact with and what their story was a little bit?
Yeah, and so we do have one female who's right now, she's currently living in Maryland. She's here on a 1 year humanitarian parole. She's been here since April, so she's getting up there on her time. And I met her when I was advocating for military sexual assault. When the tragedy of Vanessa Guillen happened in Fort Hood,
Mhm.
Texas, I became part of an organization who was bringing awareness to that. We actually, with the Women's Network, um, I worked with Diana, I worked with Stephanie Colota, with, like, all of them. And when I was in a panel with a school in California, and the sister of a deported male veteran was in the audience, and she was the one that talked about deported veterans, and my jaw just dropped. What? Right? And I'm like, hold on. And so from there, I began to do some research on it, and I ran across the story of Laura Mesa. And I'm going to say her name because she's okay with us sharing her name.
Okay.
Came across her story. She is from Costa Rica, combat veteran. Saw some. There was an IED or a bomb exploded near her compound, and they started transporting wounded soldiers and civilians right into the casualty tent. So she's a combat veteran, Army, and she was struggling because she was also a survivor of MSD. So and she was in Germany. So I'm thinking,
Wow, the parallels, right?
I'm thinking of this, I'm like, oh my God, right? And I started learning more about her. And I learned that when she got deported, she was maladaptively coping with substance abuse and alcoholism, right? Trying to probably process her sexual trauma, her combat experience in Iraq. And she was convicted of a crime that was a deportable offense. And that doesn't, like Daniel said, it doesn't take much.
Mm-hmm.
So in the civilian court of law, you have either a misdemeanor or a felony, right? Well, a felony turns into an aggravated felony on immigration court. Only an immigration court.
Now that changed right after 9/11, correct? Didn't they put no?
No, so that has been in place since 1996.
Oh.
1996, Bill Clinton, when he was president, he enacted this law that's called IRA. And what that law was put in for, the immigration law was put in for, is they were dealing with combat on drugs, right? So anyone who was not a U.S. citizen, some offenses were deportable offenses. So the judges lost their authority to say, okay, well, we're not going to deport you, just go serve your time. Well, the judges had no longer had that right to say that. They took it away, and automatically, if they committed a felony, now it turns into an aggravated felony in the immigration court, and that is a deportable offense. Yes. So Miss Laura Mesa, her offense was possession, and she served almost a year in prison. And after she served her year, she was deported for 14 years to Costa Rica. Her daughter was 10 at the time. Yes.
So I can't even imagine that.
Yes. So now,
so your veteran status has nothing to do with it. It's not even taken into consideration.
Nothing. And now, once you leave the military, now you're just you're an immigrant.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're an immigrant in the United States, right? Yes, you've been a veteran, but we don't care about that. We're not even going to ask you if you served, right? So when Laura was deported to Costa Rica, she was not only ripped away from her daughter, she was ripped away from her family, and she was ripped away from any benefit from the VA, mental health care, physical health care that she could have used to cope with her trauma. She was sent all the way to her country of origin that she never really knew. She left there when she was 3 years old. So
she really didn't fit in anymore. I think what's funny is that Daniel Torres said that he was too Mexican to be American and too American to be Mexican. Like he didn't fit in either world. And I was like, oh my, that's why I remembered it. I was like, wow, that's
and it's different as a woman, right? Because as a woman, you're in a new country. So now you're out with no home, with no family, nothing in this new country.
And she didn't know anybody there, correct? They just said, okay, bye, go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's sad. That's so
And
sad.
yeah, and she's was struggling, and she was able to receive her VA rating, so she was receiving compensation, thankfully, right, which gave her financial stability a little bit in
Mhm.
Costa Rica to so that she can have a home, but yet there was no healthcare support, like nothing, right? Because out in the middle of Costa Rica, she may have had healthcare, but it was she had to pay for the doctor, right?
Yes.
And so it was extremely challenging for her because she was a mom and she was
Mhm.
a daughter and she was a sister and she had a mom who is is just, for her she lost her identity completely,
Oh,
so she
that's
had to, yeah,
mm,
she had to go into survival mode, and survival mode for her meant, all right, let me find a job. I'm gonna. So she actually started school, and she was teaching one of the schools English to some of the children there. So she tried to do the best she could while being there, and we started fighting for her to come back. I said, when I say probably in 2021 that I was involved in. They had already been working on her coming back for a long time before that. But now that she is here, they were able to obtain a humanitarian parole
mhm.
for 1 year. Now, this is something that we struggle with on the way they bring them back. They bring them back with a 1 year parole. During that year, they expect you to not only work your criminal case to remove those charges, right? So you can stay here. Now they expect you to deal with your healthcare, mental health care, reunite with your family, reunite with your community, all of that
It
within one.
takes you that long just to get acclimated, just to let alone anything
Yeah.
else.
So now you have this clock ticking in the back of your head,
Mhm.
right? That you don't know if you're here for good or if you're going to be deported again.
You still feel dislocated, you
Yeah.
know?
So
You don't
now
really
you're
have yeah.
now you're in limbo, right? That,
Yes.
okay, I got a year, but I had to do everything right, and I better hurry up and do it. And so it's very challenging for all of them. 90 days out before their humanitarian parole expires, they can apply for an extension, but even that is not guaranteed. And they still had to pay a $750 fee for that application that is not refundable.
Okay, that's just not right. I'm sorry. At some point the veteran status has to come in. Like when you said they have to, what do you call it, expunge their what do you
Their
call it?
record,
Yeah.
like,
Seriously, come on. I don't understand that. So when was it that you said I need to dig deep into this? Like when did you start Repatriate Our Patriots?
so I began as a board member with Repatriate Our Patriots. It was founded in 2019 by an Army veteran as well.
Mhm.
And when I found out about this, I was like towards the end of the MSD um, advocacy that we have been doing for Vanessa Guillen. And I said, you know what? I said, I need to go and advocate for this. They don't
Mhm.
have enough advocates. My services will be best utilized in this, right? This is where I come from. I come from a family of immigrants. I come from being a legal permanent resident
And
myself.
you can relate so well to it.
Yes. And I was like, I feel like this is
It's your calling.
yes. And it's so like when I think about it, I was like, this was God's path because
Mhm.
it just felt so natural, right? And I'm like, okay, I have to go and see what I can do. The MSC community was thankfully so oversaturated with so many advocates, right? I was like, I think
Mhm.
I'm good. If I leave, like
Yeah, I
they will
know.
take it.
They'll be okay.
Yes, like they will take it forward and they will see it through, right?
Mhm.
So I joined Repatriate Our Patriots as a board member, as doing legislation in policy affairs, right? Because I wanted to know where is the disconnect at the top? Why is this happening, right? So I've been volunteering for them since 2021, and during that time, I was also advocating for suicide prevention. And we actually, with LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, we were able to pass the Brandon Act. The Brandon Act has now been implemented across all branches to allow service members to go and seek mental health care without the commander knowing. So that was a big win. And so I began to do work with Repatriate Our Patriots, and we began like finding more veterans that were deported just by word of mouth. There is no data. There is no database. ICE and DHS does not keep any record of how many veterans have been deported.
I know Daniel told me that too. And I said, are you kidding me? We keep records for everything except for that.
Yeah. And is that we can't even get any records for that. So we don't know where they've been deported to and for how long, what branch, like nothing, right? So we're finding these veterans by word of mouth. And now, thankfully, that venues like your podcast, right, like the Veterans Club and other organizations who publish information about this in social media, the word is getting out. Last week, we found 3 more deported veterans who had been deported recently.
That's amazing.
Recently, like.
Yeah.
What?
If you had to guess, like a big old fat, you know what a WAG is, right?
Yeah.
Yes. For those listening who don't know what a WAG is, it's called a wild ass guess. Okay. Yes. If you had to WAG it, what do you think is the number of deported veterans currently?
Alive or dead?
Yes.
So I will say alive. I will probably guess in the tens thousands. Death, I will probably go up even to like as a total, like dead, deported, died in exile type thing. I will go in the hundreds of thousands.
That's sad.
Because veterans have been deported since World War One. Do you know how many veterans from Vietnam War thought they were veterans because they went and volunteered to serve in Vietnam? And they were told, yeah, you're a citizen. And then they found out they weren't.
That they weren't. Yeah.
And now those veterans are 70-something years old.
I know in the movie, for those of you listening, we watched a movie, we got a preview. And one of I can't remember who it was, who said in the movie that the only way you can get honors is to come back to this country dead.
Yeah, so that was Hector Barajas. Hector Barajas said that the only way a veteran can come home and receive full honors is in a box, really dead. And that actually has happened while I've been with the Repatriate Our Patriots 4 times.
Oh my goodness.
Just in the area that we operate, but there has been many more in the Tijuana area where Hector Barajas' bunker is at. And this most recent death that we had, it was Vietnam veteran, 74-year-old, whose appendix ruptured. And he didn't have money to go to the doctor to have the appendix removed. And his body began to his organs began to shut down because of all the toxics, right?
Yes.
And his daughter somehow found out about us, reached out, and we put in an emergency humanitarian parole request for his medical condition. And we have built a great relationship with the director of the VA in El Paso, Texas. And they checked his record as they say, yes, he is eligible for care. You bring him to the border, we'll pick him up from an ambulance there, we'll bring him in and give him the care that he needs. So we were working with the hospital in Mexico and Juarez, and we it took 2 weeks for the whole process to happen. We had to get medical transcripts translated. We had to get sent out, like all of it, right? 2 weeks. Then we get a letter that says that his humanitarian parole requests have been denied because his case was not considered an emergency.
A ruptured appendix isn't an emergency?
He died 2 days later.
Oh, that's I hate to hear that.
He died 2 days later, and his daughter was destroyed. And she's like, well, we're going to bring him and give him his honors at the National Veteran Cemetery. And they did. He was cremated, and he was buried with full honors at the Fort Bliss National Veteran Cemetery.
Let me ask you this question. So, are the rules changing? So, for anyone who isn't nationalized or doesn't, have their citizenship and they want to serve the country, are they now, like, after basic, doing a ceremony where they're actually nationalized citizens now, or is that changing? Are they doing that now, or is it still kind of just up in the air and maybe they do it, maybe they don't?
So I will say this: the Air Force is leading the way.
Whoop,
For the
whoop.
first, I say for the first time, for the first time, the Air Force finally got it together and is leading the way in something. Yeah, I'm an Air Force civilian, so I can say that. No, so the Air Force is currently doing naturalization ceremonies when they graduate basic training. And this just started. And I'm sure you're aware that all of the branches are not meeting their recruiting numbers. All of them.
Yes.
Except the Space Force. Everybody wants to go be a space cadet.
Well, that's I didn't know that. That's interesting. That's an interesting statistic.
And so the Air Force began doing naturalization ceremonies after basic training. So what they're doing is they actually created a partnership between the Air Force and the Department of Homeland Security. So when the trainees arrive to basic training, they fill out all the naturalization paperwork. They do fingerprints, all of that stuff. So while they're in basic, they're processing their paperwork for the naturalization. So
isn't that how it should be across the board? It should just be.
Yes. Yes. Oh. So they have graduated, to my knowledge, 4 classes already. And the Navy, we learned this at a convention that we did in New Mexico. The Navy actually, like, their recruiters are mandated to show information and webinars on the naturalization process to their recruits, right, as they are enlisting them. And so that's great, because that was something that is not done for anybody else, right? To where at least they give you the information of what you have to do, who do you have to reach out to, what applications, all of that. So that's great. I'm glad the Navy is doing that, but all of them should be doing it.
They should be doing it.
Yes.
2 more questions. One is, do you feel that, let me backtrack. That's not what I meant to say, y'all. If there's a woman veteran out there who is in a situation, she hasn't been deported yet, but she's listening to this podcast and she's got a little fear and understandably so. What advice would you give to any woman or any veteran in particular, but specifically women? What word of advice would you give to her? Speak to her right now and give her a word of advice.
Sister, if you're listening to this podcast, reach out 757-659-6300. This is the number for Repatriate Our Patriots. The phone call will come straight to me and we can help you. We have the resources that you can use to make sure that you are not deported. And if you have children, if you have family with you, don't worry. We will also make sure the family has the resources needed. And for anyone else listening, always remember repatriateourpatriots.org. We are an organization that collaborates with organizations that do the same type of work across the United States, from one side of the border to the other one. And it doesn't matter who does it. Whoever has the resources will take care of you the same way we would. It's such a shame, right, that this is even happening.
Yes.
And it's just like it breaks our heart every time that we find out that a veteran is living in the United States in fear for their safety, for being deported, right? And when we see and hear the stories of veterans who find themselves deported to countries like Haiti, El Salvador, where there was a martial law going on in El Salvador, and we had
Yes.
a U.S. Marine veteran deported, like through all of that, and like it's just crazy that you feel like you're back at war, but you have no gun.
And you have no, usually you could say I'm a veteran or I'm an American, which, and you can't even say that. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, so we don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Dee, this has been such an eye-opening, even more so. The more I learn about this, the more I'm just like, what do I need to do? What can we, as veterans and anyone else listening, how do we start to help? How do we help?
We begin by having these conversations. It is a taboo, right, to ask people about their citizenship, but there's a way where we can say, hey, so were you able to obtain your citizenship while you were in service, right? If not, well, what are the challenges? We know resources, right? But at the same time, is speaking to your members of Congress. Let it go and vote. Let them know that this should not be happening, that service members are good enough to die for this country, but they're not good enough to receive the citizenship that was promised upon enlistment,
Yeah,
right?
that's crazy.
And it's just mind blowing, right? And one more thing, all the nonprofits that are doing this work, we are not receiving any funding from the government or from the Department of Homeland Security. They implemented a program called INVITS, right, which is working and helping try to bring veterans back. But there's no funding for organizations like us. The brackets and the grants that are out there, we don't fit in that category because veterans should not be deported. So there are no,
Right? It's like a double-edged sword, you
yeah.
know?
Well, who's going to think about, let me create a grant for organizations who help veterans that are deported? Like, no, there's nothing out there, right, that helps.
Mhm.
And because the majority of our services are for veterans who are still deported, right, it's really challenging for us to receive grants and funding to continue to do the work that we do. So we rely on T-shirt sales. We don't rely on GoFundMes, on whatever it is, right? So if you
Right.
know of an organization that does this type of work, consider making a donation. And I will say Repatriate Our Patriots, but if anybody, any organization who's
Mhm.
doing this work, just donate, help them out, because those $25 will really be life-saving for somebody who is in another country that doesn't have any food or doesn't have any water. A veteran in Haiti, we were sending him $25 a month so that he could keep food and the lights on in his house. $25 a
So
month went
sad.
such a long way. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this, if anyone is listening, you can also email me and I will make sure that Dee gets your message. You can email me at sistersinsvc, sisters in service @gmail.com. Dee, thank you so much for being a part of this. I'm so glad you said yes, because this is, the more I hear it, the more I learn, and I'm a lifelong learner. And I want to always keep my eyes and ears open about what's happening with our veterans, and specifically our women veterans.
Yeah.
Because who knew this was happening to veterans and female veterans, on top of that. So, of course, you guys know what I'm going to say. Please stay safe. Take care of each other until next time. And remember, it's never too late to start your impossible.